Welcome to the Steady Road Home podcast, where each week we're going to discuss topics about what it means to keep steady toward your physical, spiritual, and mental health goals. Join me as I talk to people from all walks of life in discussing what the meaning of home is to them, how they've tackled hard topics in their careers, relationships, and faith, and where they see themselves going from here. I'll also be discussing these topics through a biblical worldview. Thanks so much for being here today. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Steady Road Home podcast. My name is Denine, and I am so excited that you're here today. On today's episode, I wanted to share a little story of a time when I went on a missions trip to Honduras, and just kind of what that did for me. But I want to talk about it within the context of what it looks like to plant seeds. As we're coming up on spring and the season is finally changing, and I'm so excited because I just love this time of year. I love spring and summer. I am not a winter baby. I can tolerate fall. Fall can be cozy. Fall can be cute. But winter, man, I struggle in the winter. It's just so long and it's so dark and it's so cold. But okay, I'm done complaining. I love spring, so I'm super excited for this season. I'm excited for all of the things that are coming along with spring and with summer, and that means planting plants. It means starting a garden. It means flowers everywhere. It means grass under my feet. Okay. If you couldn't tell, I'm super excited. So today I wanted to talk about reaping what we sow, but I wanted to talk about it again within the context of my missions trip to Honduras. Let me actually pray for our time together. Lord, I just thank you so much for this day. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to come onto this podcast and to speak into the lives of other people, and to also have my life spoken back into by the people who are listening. I thank you for the opportunity to start conversations with people. I thank you for what obedience can look like and the seeds being planted in people's lives currently. I thank you for the seeds being planted in my life as well. And I just thank you so much again for the opportunity to be able to do this. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So back in 2019, I had the opportunity to go to San Pedro Sula, Honduras. And when I tell you it was a life-changing trip, nothing has ever touched my heart in the way that that trip did.
Like, make it a meaningful time. Honduras on 3. Original, right? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
I know there's a lot of controversy around short-term missions, what that can look like, how it can affect the people that you are coming in contact with, because just a lot of coming and going from different people groups. And obviously there's so much benefit to it, but there's also a little bit of controversy around what that can look like for people long-term and the kind of effects it can have on a community. With that said, I will say I'm super grateful that I did get to go. It was, for me, so much more than just like a quick trip that I took and will always remember. It's something that really solidified something that God had put in my heart to do already, and it really just sparked something in me. Even to start this podcast, there's so much that I have had background-wise in what God has been doing to prepare my heart. And so that trip alone were seeds planted in my heart, and they are growing and flourishing into some of the things that I'm able to do today and the person that I'm becoming. So I went to Honduras on this trip with a bunch of people from my old church, and it was something that I didn't fully know what to expect. And I know when missionaries are choosing a place to go, they're either choosing a people group that they feel called to, or a place that they know is a very specific need, and they have kind of lined this up for a long time. They've given it a lot of thought and prayer. They've raised funds to do so. Typically, your church will have, or the organization that you're doing it through will have a trip set up already, a destination already, and a partnership already with the people that you're going to visit. And then you are usually housed by the people who are there. Not all the time. It can look a little bit different depending on the trip. But the one that we went on, it was through the Dream Center that's out in Honduras, in San Pedro Sula, run by Kim and Pablo Elvire. And there are incredible people who are doing some incredible things. And there's just so much that I could share about their organization. I was incredibly grateful, again, to be able to go with the group from my church on this trip and to learn so much from being on this trip. So when we first arrived in Honduras, I was not expecting, none of us were expecting to hit the ground running. So we got there, and I think, you can try to mentally prepare, try to spiritually prepare for a trip like this. But if you've never actually been on a missions trip, there's something that it does to your heart in a way that you don't expect and can't anticipate or, again, prepare for. You can do all the praying, you can do all the prep, you can pray that God opens your heart, but it's not until you get there and you are face to face with people who are in really dire situations, spiritually, but also physically and mentally and emotionally. It really does something to you, and it moved my heart in a way that seeing it on TV or through a screen will never do. And so I encourage everyone in whatever way, if you feel compelled to go on a trip, to do so, because you may find that it changes the trajectory of your life and what you want to do and how you want to help people. So we flew into San Pedro Sula, and first of all, let's talk about the heat. I am someone who loves the heat. Like, I would prefer to sit in my house kind of sweating a little bit in the summertime with the windows open and the humidity fully just like wrapping itself around you. Barefoot, walking through my home and not using the AC. Like, I would prefer that over a winter day anytime. But there was something about this heat. Honduran heat is a totally different world. We got off of the plane, and when I tell you, like, we went into the area, into the airport, and we're like in the area where we're exchanging our currency, so that we could have money to spend while we were there. And when the doors, like the sliding doors of the airport open for us to exit the airport to go out to the van that was taking us to the place that we were staying, our host family. Oh my goodness. I've never felt heat like that. I've never felt humidity like that. It was the kind of thing that just like wrapped itself around your whole body. Like, it felt like you walked into like a thick air, and it was just like everything was dewy. Like, just the humidity was insane. But I will admit, I still would prefer that over a winter day anytime. I say that now because I have the changes of seasons that are pretty drastic, and who knows, maybe I would miss winter if I ever ended up in a situation like that forever. But yeah, so we got out of the airport, we went into the van, we're driving to the place that we were staying. We were staying in a gated community that was a host family that was also hosted through the Dream Center. Incredible family, so sweet. They cooked every meal for us, and like, they were just so hospitable and kind and opened up this house to us to stay in. And so we get to the house, and we were expecting to be able to like settle in, change our clothes or whatever else as soon as we got there. And I can't remember what the details around that were, if it was that we were a little bit later than the project was expecting that day, or I genuinely can't remember because it's been a little bit now. Plus it was such like a mad rush when we got off of the plane. So we get there, we get to the house, and we had packed and brought a bunch of stuff with us, like toothpaste and toilet paper and sanitary products for women and diapers and just hygiene products of every kind, and just a bunch of necessities that we could bring on the plane with us. And we had suitcases full of that. And immediately we got to the house and we just started unpacking this stuff.
Stuff out there? I heard someone said it was duffel bag. No, one of them has a bag. Here's some bags and start making bags.
and dividing it up into go bags that we were going to give away that day within the hour. So we're packing them all of us are standing around. We haven't even unpacked our stuff. We just kind of put our stuff down. Like, we got to the house, took our shoes off, walked in, put our stuff down in the rooms that we were going to be in, the men and the women, and just started making these bags pretty much right away. From there, we loaded into the van, and we got in the van and we drove straight to the hospital that was there in San Pedro Sula. When I tell you I've never seen anything like this in my entire life, I can't even express walking out into this environment that I did not expect. We get to the hospital and they divided us up into groups, and we had translators. We got introduced to our translators pretty quickly on the bus ride over. And these translators walked with us to different parts of the hospital. Some of us were on the outside of the hospital. Some of us were on the inside. And then some of us who were outside ended up inside. Like, we were just kind of walking to different parts. And at one point we walked to like the back half of the hospital, and there were just people sleeping in the roads, sleeping in the wooded area. When I say wooded, but really it was just like a couple trees, sleeping on the side of the hospital, sleeping against the wall of the hospital. People who had walked miles to be at this hospital, waiting to be seen, just waiting. And there was nothing that they could do. I watched a doctor roll past me with it was like, just like one of those like rolling beds that you see in the hospital when a newborn is born. Those like stand up like carts with a glass encasing around it. And there was a baby on this bed, probably the size of like my hand, not even. So small. You could tell it was a preemie. You could tell it was just born. And it was on the bed, and the doctor was rolling it down this road. And it was like this bumpy road, and he's walking with the child. And I didn't know. I'm like, is the child alive? Has it died? Like, it was so hard to tell what was actually happening. And all of this was within like hours of being home. And now here we are, boom, just dropped into a totally different environment. Something that, like I said, you can't mentally, spiritually, physically prepare for. Not really, if you've never been. And so we get there, and I see this happening, this baby being wheeled past. I see people sleeping, and immediately we start going around and we're praying for people, and we're passing out supplies that we do have. There's a bit of a language barrier for a lot of us, so a lot of us were kind of not sure what people were saying to us, looking for if we had more supplies. Very kind people, sweet people, just people in situations of desperation and sadness, which was extremely hard to witness. So me and a group of girls we were directed into this one area of the hospital that just had babies in like incubators, and they were just like such tiny, like I think preemies. And I had the camera with me, and there were some photos, some videos that I took, but for the most part, I was just in such a state of, we need to be praying for these people. And Lord, like, what can we do? That I didn't feel fully comfortable filming a lot of what I was seeing at the moment. I feel like now in life, I might feel slightly more comfortable with doing so, but only for the sake of advocating for and speaking on behalf of people who are in need. Obviously, there are situations where it's still not appropriate, I don't think, to have a camera out to be filming someone's situation. So there is a tactful way of doing that. But I do have footage from some things that were happening, and other things, it's just a memory, as it should be. So we walk into this area, and we're just praying over these little babies. We're praying over the women who are going into labor, because we were in a labor unit. And it was just, my heart just breaks still just thinking about the situations that a lot of these women and people were going through. We walked into this one area with sanitary napkins, like pads and tampons, and we're walking through the area, and just all these women came out and were just grabbing them from us. And right next to that was sort of an emergency room, I guess you could say. And there was a child, and he was so young. He was probably only about 10, maybe even 8. And he's crying and screaming out for his mom because he had dengue and feeling just completely hopeless. Like, there's nothing I can do. Lord, what can I do? I'm here. I feel like it almost feels insulting that I'm here. But that mentality won't get you anywhere in being able to help anyone, right? So very quickly we realized, okay, we have to roll up our sleeves and do whatever we can. Sure, we're not here to rescue anyone. I don't think that we would be able to with what little resources and ability that we've had, but I think just being present with humans in their suffering is essential. You know, we're called to that in the Bible. The Bible is very clear on how we are to show up in people's suffering. And so it was one of those reality check moments of, wow, there's not much I can do, but I'm going to be here and present with the people who are here in their suffering, and I'm going to pray for them. Which still, like, it still just felt so cheap. Felt like, oh, I'm not really, like, what am I really doing? But I have to, as a believer, believe that prayer works. I've seen prayer work, and in those moments you have to put aside your feelings of inadequacy and just walk in obedience. And so that's what we did. We had this moment, this reality check of recognizing what we had just walked into, the seriousness of a lot of the people's situations and the nature of their everyday lives and the way that they live. And as we navigated the streets of Honduras after this, life would only change.
That seed that was planted would just go and grow and just bless everyone. If someone like to do that, just pray us out.
The seeds that we planted, God, we know that they will not come back. Lord, we know that.
So we got back to the house and we ended up having sort of a debrief.
We got to understand we are going in to a place that has been completely controlled by darkness, okay? There's not light there. There's something that you cannot deny. And that's that God is just the same everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's something so beautiful. You might not even speak the same language, but we're all worshiping the same God. And so when you're in a church in another country, I remember my first missions trip. And I'm in Mexico, and I only know how to say, like, donde está el baño. That's all I could say. But I broke down just crying, just hearing worship in Spanish, because I'm like, it's the same thing.
Have that liberty to speak things out, to if you feel something in your heart, just to simply speak it out, not thinking, is it going to be dumb, is it going to be right?
So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, but all you have given me.
And we prayed. We had a worship night there at the house together, which was really edifying and honestly did more setting up for our hearts to prepare us for what was to come the next day. We had dinner as a family around the table, went to bed, woke up the next morning really early. And what was funny is I actually heard a rooster crow in the morning, and that's what woke me up. It's interesting. Typically, I'm not the first person out of bed on any trip, or in general. I'm usually pretty lagging a lot in the morning. And there was something about waking up to a rooster in the morning. And, I've talked a little bit about how I want to have a homestead, and there's something, I don't know. I'm just so drawn to a specific type of life. And that type of life, I think, is just a little bit more natural in the way that the rhythm of the day goes. And I don't mean to make this part about me at all, but there was just something about it that felt like I was waking up with a purpose, in a way that was different from my every other days. So waking up, hearing the rooster, I think I was like the first or second one in the shower that morning. And there were a lot of us sharing a pretty big room with bunk beds and whatnot. But we got up, we got ready, went down and had breakfast pretty early. And then from there we loaded into the van and we were taken to the site where we would be working or doing the majority of the work while we were there in Honduras. And the project that we ended up doing while we were there was something that was so near and dear to my heart. It was something that was so in line with everything that I believe. Sustainable practices that allow them to then be successful and pass it along to other people. While I do think it is incredible to be philanthropic and to give as much as we can, that will always have a need. We'll always need that. I think it's just as essential to then use those resources to be able to teach people to further their own success and to gain skills and to be able to do stuff that allows them to live a sustainable life. And so the project that we ended up working on was the Dream Center had bought this old concrete yard, and it was a yard that just like had a bunch of like cinder blocks in it and concrete blocks all over the place. And the group that was there before us had actually cleared most of the concrete out of this giant lot. And when we arrived there was still a lot that needed to be cleared, but for the most part, what we were doing was leveling out the land. And we were like creating this like trench area where there was going to be like an area where there was like water runoff, and then we were creating the area where the new steps were going to go in. We were flattening the top of the land at the top of the hill where they were going to be building the kitchen for the Dream Center. Since then, they've actually built and purchased new property, and it's been a while since I've been back, but at the time this is the project that we were working on, and it was something that was much needed for them. And we were flattening out the top part, and there was a group working on making some garden beds where they could grow food in these garden beds. And then there was a group of us who were working on planting grass on the hill and creating like an area where the kids could roll down the hill and they could play soccer out in the field. And they were going to be paving it over to make like a soccer like court almost, and just like creating something out of nothing in this giant concrete lot. And so this project it was exhausting. It was like 100 degrees or over 100 degrees. The humidity was insane. I often joke when I talk about this trip about how we were sweating from like places you don't even realize you could sweat from. Like, I remember I was standing there in the middle of the field and I thought that a bug or something was crawling down my calf, and I realized it was just my calf sweating. It was one of those things where we were all just drenched in sweat and we realized that's just what it was going to be. But there was something so fulfilling in the work that we were doing and being able to create a space for these children to have a community and a place to feel safe, where many of the children of Honduras, of that particular area, do not. And so we woke up really, really early to work on this field because it was the kind of thing that you had to do to beat the heat. You couldn't work straight through the afternoon because as soon as that sun was high noon and it was really high in the sky, it was going to be way too hot for us to be out there, and not the best of conditions. So we'd get up really early, work as much as we could throughout the day, and then during those warmer parts of the day, we actually would go walk through the neighborhood, and we took these bags of food that we would bring to each of their to some of the neighbors' houses and sit with them and pray with them, ask them if they have any needs at all, bring them these bags of food, just chat with them, hear their stories. There were so many interesting people that we got to meet. This one lady, I thought she was so adorable. She was making like wind chimes and different things out of old Coke cans. She made like this motorcycle which I have a photo of. It was like a motorcycle, like model motorcycle that she had made like out of old Coca-Cola cans, and she was just really creative, sweet lady. Welcomed us into her home, allowed us to sit with her and just chat for a little bit and hear a little bit about her life. And so there was just something so special about being able to see the people face to face and chat with them. And to be honest with you, even talking about this story now, sometimes I feel that inadequacy. Even though I'm sharing with such pride and joy and excitement for having been there, I still walk with this like, and yet what did I do? But I want to talk today about the importance of planting seeds. God, Jesus spoke in parables through the Bible, and he specifically talks about seeds and planting seeds, and there's so many examples of this throughout scripture, and that's for a reason. There's one scripture in particular that I want to read, and it's in Matthew, and it's the parable of the sower. And so I'm just going to read chapter 13 in Matthew very briefly for us before I continue my story on Honduras. This is chapter 13 of Matthew. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down. And the whole crowd stood on the beach, and he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil, but when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Then the disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? And he answered them, To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to the one who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Indeed, in their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled that says, You will indeed hear, but never understand, and you will indeed see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and with their ears they can barely hear, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. The parable of the sower explained. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and in another 30. The parable of the weeds. He put another parable before them, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. So the servant said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he said, No, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn." There's a lot more within this particular passage in Matthew 13, but I'm going to stop there. But there is something very specific that I want to touch on in that particular parable and my time in Honduras. So while in Honduras, I can sit here and say again that I feel like, wow, I had such an inadequacy. There was not much that I could have done or said while these people were suffering in such situations. But at the end of the day, if God tells you to share his gospel, share his word, share his love, that's what we're called to do.
I pray that she will walk in your strength. She will walk in your power.
Next week on the Steady Road Home, we were trying to go to our next destination. They had heard a gunshot, but we all have to kind of hurry into the bus really quickly. And that entire right side of the bus, from him all the way at the front of the bus, and then kind of domino affecting all the way to the back, you watched reactions happen, full tears, and he's like holding her and she's crying. There were so many different experiences through that. Some people crying, some people in shock. I broke down crying. Dear listener, stay tuned for part 2 of The Seeds We Plant, a journey through Honduras. Thanks so much for listening to the Steady Road Home podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to, please share with a friend. In the meantime, keep steady, and I'll see you on the next episode.